gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. She is an entrepreneur, she is a podcaster, a branding expert, and a Pilates master, and she is also part of our podcast mastermind. We get to chat with her every other week, and I actually met her at Brendan Burchard's High Performance Academy a couple years ago, and we still talk today. We are sitting down with the wonderful Summer Scolaro. She was on episode 80, and now she's here with us today. How are you doing, beautiful?
I'm so glad to be here, and especially because episode number 80 was probably very different than what did you say, 308?
Either 307 or 308.
300,
Yep.
Oh man, I hope that I can bring you a much more evolved human.
Well, we hope we can bring you a much more evolved Jeff and Jeff today as well. So
I'm sure.
In case the people that are listening now didn't listen to episode number 80, tell the listeners a little bit about who is Summer Scolaro today. What does she do? And then we'll jump back into the past and figure out how you became such an amazing woman that you are today.
Well, first I have to start by saying that the last time I was on the show, I don't believe we had formed our podcast mastermind yet. And I know I met you, Kevin, at the High Performance Academy, and that's where I also met Kim. And so I'm taking full credit for getting that group together.
It's yours. You did it.
So we just have the best podcast mastermind. We talk, every other week. Mm-hmm. So for those people who don't know that, I get to listen to all the things with both Kevin and Alan, and I'm so grateful to even get to be part of that and get to pour into them in any way. But yeah, I met you guys when I was full-time entrepreneur. I worked from home, which was great because I was living my life by design. But at the same time, there was a big part missing, which was community. And I'm pretty extroverted. And so just being home at my little desk all by myself with maybe a cat or a dog, but it just wasn't. I knew there was something more. And so since then, I actually got certified to become a Pilates instructor. So my business was all about health and wellness, and I was a food blogger, and I worked as a personal chef and all the things. And actually the one piece that I was missing was fitness. And I had a pretty poor relationship to fitness at the time. So I forced myself to quit my gym membership, and I just thought that it was a place of punishment because I had some eating disorders and some body dysmorphia. So all of that said, I wanted to find a way that I could reconnect with fitness, and Pilates was the place for me because it's all about mind-body connection. It's really not about how you look. It's much more about how you feel, and it's really helped me redefine fitness in my own life, but also it's provided me a whole new avenue for career and to meet so many new people who have great interest in what I do on my own outside of the Pilates world. So since I got certified to become an instructor, I've worked at so many different studios. I work for a company called Club Pilates, and I got promoted to become lead instructor over 3 studios now in my area. So it's been kind of wild. I would have never dreamt of this, especially just so fast. But I'm telling you, it's I guess it's just all part of the plan. And it's much better than my plan for myself because, like I said, my plan for myself was just me sitting at home with a dog and a cat, and it was just not super fulfilling. So I've been able to add Pilates on to the mix, and everything is starting to really connect. And I'm busier than I've been in my life, and I often have breakdowns. And but I'm sure you guys know this, but every time we talk, I'm like, I can't finish everything I need to finish, but you know what? If anything, I've just learned that my new max is higher than it's ever been. Like I can handle more than I thought I could. And, that makes me feel really strong, and it makes me feel like I'm growing and my mind is expanding, and I'm not living from a place of limitations anymore. It's like, yeah, throw it at me. What other fire do I need to put out today? I can do it. So I'm used to it. Every day is a wild, crazy day. And I truly wake up happy because I can't believe I get to serve a team of 3 studios. So, I mean, think about how many instructors that is. And I can't believe that this is my life. And like I said, everything seems to be connecting. My 2 worlds are colliding between my own business and now Pilates world. So I'm just super grateful, super happy.
So, Summer, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, Kevin and I were just kind of going back and forth. We definitely want you to jump back a little bit soon, but first I have another question. So, Summer is the sweetest, and the last thing she would ever do is boast or brag about herself, but I'm going to ask her to do something that's probably a little uncomfortable.
Boast and brag.
Kevin and I have noticed over, how long have we been in the mastermind? It's got to be like almost a year now, right?
Yeah. Because I think I met you guys, or I at least met Kevin and Kim at HP. I believe it was like 2 months. You know what? No, oh my God. It was like a week after I got married. So I just got off of my honeymoon and I kind of came straight to HPA. And my husband was like, is this really going to be our life? Like, you're not going to spend our first week at home together. And I'm like, hey, business calls, man.
Right.
So anyway, I believe that was 2018 because that's when I got married. So
the tail end of 2018, it has been a hot minute. And you've grown so much. And one of the things Kevin and I say a lot, so every other week we get on the phone, we talk about wins, losses, bottlenecks, and refocus. And so we have a very deep look at each other's lives and where we're performing well and where we're not. And Summer strikes me and Kevin as someone who, when they show up and spend time in a place, success finds her. So in an effort to not be modest, Summer, can you please try to bring to our listeners why you believe that might be the case? Because from an outside perspective, it does seem that you kind of do attract success. What do you attribute that to?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a very high compliment. I appreciate that. I definitely think that it is work ethic. I know that's part of the equation, but I do think that the way that my brain is wired and just who I am, and I know that we're probably going to get into personality types, but I think what changed everything for me was when I took the Enneagram and I realized that I'm a type 3. Type 3s are performers. Type 3s are the achievers. Type 3s literally live and breathe to be the best in whatever their avenue is. It's not that I need to be the best of anybody. It's that I need to be the best me. Right. And so I don't live in competition with others. That's totally opposite. In fact, it's completely opposite from how I live. But I think what my opinion is just that, yeah, when I'm on and when I put myself in a position where I know that this is my zone, such as teaching Pilates or, teaching branding for my own business, anywhere that I am in my zone, I know that I am going to show up good, because truly, I know it sounds funny, but I mean, I believe that every single person has their own, I say area of brilliance. You might know it as zone of genius. And so the more that you can operate in that zone, the more that success might just find you, because that's where we're supposed to be. And that's where we're supposed to spend majority of our time. And so I just believe that my zone is as an educator and as a teacher. And when I was little, that used to mean an elementary school teacher. And now it looks like an educator and a teacher in very different ways. But I think that I set myself up for success by knowing my strengths, knowing where I can shine. And I place myself in those positions, in those rooms.
What a great answer.
Right? Summer, take us back. So one of the most impactful things that happened on episode number 80 is you took us back to when you were literally scrubbing floors and working at a job and not being respected and not living up to the potential that you felt that you had. Can you take us back to that point in your life before you were focused on being the best version of yourself, and maybe before you had the clarity that you had now? Because I think a lot of the listeners, or maybe, somebody that the listeners know, they know somebody in their life who is living a life that they're not happy with. They want out. They want to make a change. Can you just walk us through that part of your life, how you made that change, maybe how difficult it was, but, was the fulfillment worth the difficulty? I understand that's like a 35-minute question that I just asked you, but,
No, it's perfect.
This is what
it's
I
fabulous. Yeah, I love it. So my main advice here and what I've learned the very most is that I believe that I played a role in the many jobs that I've had where I was disrespected, and even in the job where I found myself scrubbing floors as a punishment. I really felt like a victim, and many of my jobs I've actually really had a tough go with some bosses in my day. But you know what? It's the law of attraction. It's like the energy that I'm putting out. It wasn't an energy that a leader would have. It wasn't an energy that said, like, don't mess with me. I was very much like the nice little shy girl. Like, I would totally allow people to walk all over me. And so I don't know if that resonates with people, if they are in a job where maybe they're feeling disrespected or like they don't feel worth whatever they feel they are valued as, like, because that's my story. It's just a story of coming from insecurity to a person who feels empowered every day, and I kind of show up as a different human, and I feel like people can sense that energy. And so yeah, when I think back to that little room, I was, gosh, I don't know what kind of room it was because it had no air conditioning. I guess it was an office. I basically messed up an order. I was working at a restaurant. I messed up an order, and my manager told me that I needed to learn my lesson by going to scrub the dirt floors until they're super clean and squeaky clean. And what I realized from that is, like, as I was scrubbing and sweating and breaking nails, I just kind of looked down at my hand, and I was like, with broken nails, I was thinking, like, what am I doing and why am I doing this? Because I need to know that it's not like I just found myself here. Like, I allowed myself to get here. I allowed her to say that I needed to go back in whatever room and scrub the floors. I said, yes, I do deserve that. I mean, because I did it. And so I found that because of all the personal development work and all the personal growth I've done, it's me. I'm the one who puts myself in these situations, and it's ownership. And it's about the energy that I put off. And so I think that won't ever happen to me again because I'm different now.
Summer, can you take us through? So I often say that I want people to work so hard on themselves in private that success finds them in public. I think that's what's happening to you. Can you take us through some of the rituals that you have in terms of personal development work, early on especially, because I think that you finally found the self-esteem to go, you know what, I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. I know I'm worth more than this. I know I'm capable of more than this, and I'm going to start making positive change. Like, what was it that made that shift? And then what did you actually start to do to really build that self-esteem to believe in yourself more?
Well, it actually started after that restaurant job. That's when I quit. I quit that day when I was on the floor, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to build my own business. I'm going to create a life by design. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to give myself 6 months to make it happen. And it worked. I mean, I built my business, but like I said, there were pieces missing that I had to just kind of find throughout my own way. And I just continue to follow my nose about, okay, this doesn't feel right. So maybe I just need to pivot here. And maybe I just need to pivot here. But, you know, when I came from such a place of insecurity, like, clearly I needed to figure out, why do I not feel worthy? Why do I not feel like I'm good enough? Why do I not feel like I can have this epic career? Why am I working at a restaurant with a college degree as a server?
Right.
You know, I mean, so I dove into all the podcasts and so many personal growth books. And this was very early on. And that's when I found people like Brendan, and I decided that, wow, there is a different way to live. And so I ended up going to some events, which is obviously where I met you guys. But I think it is in the day to day, because like today, I don't necessarily listen to a personal growth podcast every day because honestly, I need a break from personal growth sometimes. It's so freaking much. Like, it feels better to listen to a true crime podcast than a personal growth, because I constantly am like, I need to up my game. I need to up level here. I need to do this and that. And it's like, there's a certain point where I'm doing enough. Like, I need to just give myself a break. So at this point, it looks very different than it used to, but it used to be a true obsession. Like, I lived and I breathed personal growth, all the people, Brendan, Oprah, like, I mean, I love Rachel Hollis still to this day. You know, all the same people as you guys listen to. But yeah, I think that they just kind of, their story resonated with me, and I was like, oh, they're pretty normal. They're just, you know, there's not much different between them and I, except for the decision that they made, that they were going to do it and they weren't going to give up. And so, yeah. And so that's kind of where it all started. And I feel like personal growth, like when you stop growing, you just aren't living anymore. So it's something that I'm always going to be into. I will never stop. And that's just kind of, I think that if you aren't, like, what the heck, what's the point? What's the point of life?
Can you talk about, so we talked about this in the beginning, the preamble. I said I was going to ask you about this, but one thing that I have learned from you and Kim, because you guys talk about this a lot, is like, we'll get on a podcast, we'll get on the mastermind, and Alan will be like, "Yeah, we suck. Like we are just screwing up everything." And you guys are like, "Give yourself some grace." Like what does that actually mean? And if you're a high achiever listening to this podcast right now and you are very, very hard on yourself, like, can you talk on that? What does it mean to give yourself grace? And how do you know the fine line between giving yourself grace and underperforming?
Fire question.
Ooh, good question. Actually, I just saw my girl Oprah. She came to Dallas 2 weekends ago, and she talked about this, and I was blown away. I wrote it down. I took up an entire page of notes just on this topic because it resonates with me so much. It's the idea of giving yourself grace. To me also means rest. It's, because we are very much doers. As high achievers, we feel like if we're not doing, then we suck. And every time we talk on the phone, like you said, you and Alan are constantly saying how you're not good enough. I mean, you don't say it in those terms, but you're essentially saying we're not good enough. Like, we suck. We didn't meet this or that. And like both Kim and I are every time we speak, we're like, you know what? Chill out. It's okay. But because it's also but every time you fail or you don't meet a deadline or something doesn't look like you wish it did in your head or when you planned it out in your head, it's part of the plan. It's all going to serve you. But as far as giving yourself grace, I think that really means that it's a deep inner knowing that you are enough just as you are. And that doesn't mean that you can't continue to do the things that you need to do to get to the places you want to go. It just means that you need to find this place of radical acceptance within your own being that you are enough. Like you don't have to do so much in order to be somebody. Like, just who you are is way more impressive than the accomplishments on your resume. And trust me, I'm talking as a 3 on the Enneagram, which is like very focused on achievement and very focused on how many accomplishments I have. And I don't, it's not like you said, I don't brag about them, but it's me. I don't feel worthy if I don't have this kind of resume or life. But when you really get down to it, it's like, it's not fulfilling when you have all the things you've ever wanted. And I know you guys have heard stories of famous people who have worked their lives on getting that New York Times bestseller, and then they get it and it's like, oh, well, this is it. And I felt that in many ways. And I think what it comes down to is you have to enjoy the journey. And if you're not giving yourself a little bit of grace and honestly having fun along the way, then it's not going to feel good when you get there. I truly believe that having fun and being kind to yourself they are both 2 things that I haven't done a very good job of since I think it's been 3 years or something since I've started my business. And I can't imagine if I could just go back and just chosen joy and fulfillment and being kind and not beating myself up about all the things I haven't done yet or how I could have done them better. I would probably have had such a much better I would have been more fulfilled. I'll say that. I would have been more fulfilled, and I would probably give that advice to any person who is thinking about either starting a business or just changing their career path, or like, you have to choose joy, and it is a choice, and you have to know that it's all about accepting where you are now, knowing that it's all part of the plan. And I know I am spiritual. I do believe in God, and I know there's a higher power, and I know not everybody believes that, but whatever that is to you, like, the universe it has your back, whatever word you might want to substitute for God. Like, if I truly believe that it's all working for me and not to me. And so why beat myself up so much along the way? Like it's gonna be okay, and it's gonna work out. I know that.
I adopted it from Alan. That's why I beat myself up so much. I'm used to getting beat up from Alan, so I just started doing it myself.
No, I don't beat you up though. I do it to myself. You started mirroring that.
You're hard on yourself.
Yeah, he's the worst, isn't he?
Well, one of my favorite quotes is "Demand more from yourself than anyone could possibly expect of you." I do. You know what's interesting is that I actually, although I do take it too far, which I admit, believe it or not, that for me feels congruent. I know that sounds weird, but like for me, it sounds congruent because I know what I'm capable of, and I don't like when I'm not living in congruence with that. But I think everyone has their own version of that.
Right.
And that's
everyone does have their own version, and I think it could be masculine versus feminine energy, and I know we all have a little bit of both, but for you, I could see your max being a little bit higher than mine, for example, and that's not bad or good. It's just because that's you, and you're wired a little bit differently than me. But yeah, when I find that I have gone a little too far, a little too crazy, or that what I think I can do in a day is totally unrealistic, I just realize, okay, well, I hope I can wake up tomorrow and finish it then. If I'm given tomorrow, then it's okay. I'm going to move it to the next day. And also asking for help has been huge, especially because I was such a solopreneur, and I so was of the mindset that I don't need any help. I'm good. And especially my pride thinking I could do it better anyways. Well, how funny is that now? Because what I'm accomplishing on a day-to-day now is so far different. It's better than I ever did on my own, especially as my role as lead instructor, because I'm constantly planning workshops. I do the schedule. I'm pouring into each of the instructors in different ways. And if I didn't have the management behind me, if I didn't have even front desk people behind me, if I didn't have all these magical instructors helping me with the mission that I see for the studios, then we couldn't have accomplished anything. Since I've been lead, we have literally done more than we've done since 2 years of being open at one of our locations, in terms of member opportunities, like workshops, and just allowing them to feel like this is a place where they want to be, and it's a happy place, and it's exciting. And it's not because it's me doing it. It's because I now can have somebody that I say an idea to, and they actually make it happen with me. Together, we join hands and we make it happen, instead of it just being this idea in my head that would be cool one day, but wow, how much work would that would be so much work. It would probably take 6 months to pull something like that off. Now we can do it each month. Every month we do something that I can't believe we pulled off, but it's because we have a full team. Together we can do it, and it's just so much better this way. Don't do it alone. It is so not the way that life is meant to be.
So Kevin and I are fighting to ask you questions here, which means this is a great episode where literally I'm pointing to me and then pointing to him and then pointing to me.
So after you ask, I just want to make sure I don't forget mine.
Okay, go ahead.
So my question, and this is going to be after Alan's, how do you know? Because again, all about the personality types. When we're on the mastermind, you and Kim are always blowing us away with how much you know. How do you know what type of person is a good equal for you in terms of a working relationship? And we can answer that after. I just want to make sure I don't forget, because I will.
We'll let that one
good
brew.
Question.
This is the first time we've ever done that.
I know.
Preemptive question.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's make sure we come back to that one. I wanted to talk about leading leaders. So, Summer, you have, without a question, become someone who has led herself long enough to where I believe you now lead and equip leaders. That's what you're doing in your role, but also in your life. You've done that with Kevin and myself, with Kim, and vice versa. How do you lead leaders well? And what have you found, any tips and tricks on how to help people step into their own greatness? Because the thing that bothers me about the personal development industry more than anything else is that everyone feels like, Oprah says this thing one way, and there's nothing wrong with Oprah. I love Oprah. And then Tony says this one way, Brendan says this one way, and then you've got Tim Grover, who is Michael Jordan's personal trainer, saying this other way. And there is no one-size-fits-all approach to personal development. There just isn't. Even just what we talked about, my masculine wants me to be harder on myself, and that feels congruent for me, whereas for a feminine energy, that might not work or be sustainable. So how do you personally know, as a leader, how to equip each individual leader for what they need?
I think you have to meet your peeps where they're at. And I think you really have to seek to understand them. And this might go a little into, I actually think you guys' questions overlap, because when you find somebody who's a good fit, so when I bring somebody onto the team, I get an instructor like onboarded, and I'm ready to see how we can collaborate and what can you bring to the studios, or what is your teaching style. I need to get to know them. And so I think that when you get so high up to the point where maybe you don't pour into the people that are under you, then that's not a good place to be. I truly think that you need to be in it with them. And I mean, I know one day it might be great to have a business where you just have a whole team working for you and you're sipping a pina colada on the beach. But right now that's not my mindset at all. I truly believe that I want to be in it with them. I want to join hands with them. I'm not higher than them. Even though my role would technically mean that I don't act it. And so that gives them an environment or it kind of provides an energy for them to know that I am on their team and that they can come and speak to me about anything. And I'm not kidding. My phone never stops blowing up. So many people, I mean, I'm grateful because I want their experience to be great working at our studios, but so many people say, hey, this is something that's not working for me. Like, how can we maybe shift this or this? And I want them to feel like they have that freedom to speak to me. And I don't want them to feel that I think I'm better than them. So I think one is the energy that I bring. And then two is with when you have a new team member, let's just say, if you don't take initial time to get to know them and how they communicate, then you might accidentally run into some problems just because you didn't. I mean, it's because sometimes people are they think different, and maybe something I say offends somebody when that wasn't my intention or my heart at all. It's just because I didn't know that they might be thinking differently in a certain subject. And so, for example, I make, this is so funny, but I make people take the Enneagram. I do, because I'm like, listen, I need to know right off the bat what kind of brain wiring you have and how I can speak to you and communicate with you effectively. And then once we get past that, from there, I can communicate my expectations. Like, this is what I need you, this is how I need you to show up for the studio, for our members. And the first step, though, is getting to know them and seeing if this could even be a good fit. From there, then you can not in a like, I'm powerful, but then that's when you can tell them this is the expectations that we have for you now that you are onboarded. That's my opinion. That's how I've always gone about it.
So would you say that did answer my question, and I have a follow-up question now. Would you say that the communication and the open avenue of communication is more important than the way somebody is wired? Because what you're doing when you're having them take the test is to figure out, like, okay, you're strong in this, you might not be so strong in this, you think this way. You're not using that necessarily as a disqualifier. You're using that so you know how to communicate with that person.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I don't just say, oh God, you're a 1. I don't want you on our team. Yeah, not at all. I say, I think every single personality type, 1 to 9, all have strengths and all have weaknesses, including myself. And you just need to find some awareness around that. And so that's, definitely not, you don't get disqualified because of how you are. It's much more about, okay, now that I know how you are, this is how we can work around potential issues or communication that might come up in the future.
Okay. I wanted to, so something that if you're listening to this podcast, you probably want more clarity, you want more courage, you want more confidence. How did you end up going from the solopreneur space where, like, your company, She Lives Wholly, was running well, you were doing good things, and you felt like something was missing? What were the steps? What was the thought process around, like, you know what? I want to do Pilates. I want to be an instructor, and I want to go from there. Like, how did that go from a thought to you taking action to you overcoming the fears of, like, is my business going to suffer? Like, what was that whole process like for you?
Well, yeah, it wasn't necessarily part of my plan for myself. I did my vision board and my 5-year plan and my 10-year plan, and it just didn't have Pilates in the mix at all. And so it's really quite funny how life does work this way, because I'm just so wildly fulfilled and happy with where I am now. But like I said, I didn't plan it for myself. So yeah, with my business, I knew that there was that missing piece, and I just thought, like, what is it that, and I knew it was community. I knew that I needed community, and because I know myself, because I got to know myself, I got to know my personality, I got to know my strengths and where I shine and my weaknesses and my zones and all the things. And so I knew I needed to put myself in an environment where I could become the person that I knew I could be. And I knew that was teaching. That was in some form or fashion being on a stage. It's kind of like I'm performing. I get very excited. I make my own flows. Everyone is different. It's all about creativity and being able to bring something different to each class. And that's what I love about all the instructors, is that we all have such different teaching styles, and we could teach the same thing, but it's different from my class to someone else's class. So yeah, when I made that transition, it was totally like it was as if I was outside and it was totally foggy, and the only thing I could see is the next step. I could not see a path. I did not know what I was doing. All I knew is that I was following my nose. I was following what felt right and what felt good. And what felt good was teaching, and what felt good was connecting to people every day and feeling like I was making a difference, human to human. That is where I need to be. And the whole online space is fabulous as a supplement, but it can't be everything to me. Now that I've found that out, I've tried it, been there, done that. Not my 100% thing. So with that said, I just kept taking that baby step. I just kept one foot after another. And I realized that honestly, like my path, it's better when I don't have it all planned out sometimes, because then magic can happen within the unknown. And then from there, like it led me to where I am now, and being able to combine the two worlds of my business and Pilates, because now some of the instructors that are on my team are going through my branding program, and that is crazy.
Right?
And, you know, some people do, like my clients will ask me, so what else do you do outside of Pilates? And I'm like, well, truly Pilates is my world, and it has been for about a year. So that I'm just now getting to the point where I can finally combine the two. But I am so passionate about She Lives Holy. And I love to help other women build their brand online. I love the idea of helping other women create their life on their own terms. I love that. But I'm kind of also reconnecting to the health portion of what She Lives Holy used to be, which, yes, that now includes fitness and Pilates, and but even my recipes. And I made this meal plan, and I've been able to sell the meal plan to clients who come to my classes. All I have to say is, hey, in another life, I used to be a health coach and a chef, and everybody's screaming and like, what? Where's your recipes? And I'm like, well, you can buy it, and here it is. And it's like, truly, it's all connected. And I had such a hard time because I thought, well, this is weird. I used to be an entrepreneur, and then now I'm like only doing Pilates and as an instructor, and I have this whole new role. And like, what was the point of these 2 years of my life pouring into this business that now I just let go? And that's not at all the case. I just had to shift my perspective, because Pilates is furthering me in my business as a leader. It's equipping me as a leader, as a much better communicator. I have to have super hard conversations almost every day, super uncomfortable conversations. And I really think that now that I've been able to find that She Lives Holy is connected to Pilates, and that it is all about wholesome living and living fulfilled and living an inspired life. That's the feedback I get the very most from my classes. Why are you so happy? Why are you so happy at 5:30 a.m.? And I'm like, because I'm chasing an inspired and fulfilled life, and I'm not I'm not going to give up on that. So if you want to learn more, then check out what I do online. They're connected. And I love that I can finally see how they are connected.
So there's so many questions I want to ask you. One of them is about your global beliefs. You already mentioned one. Life is happening for me, not to me. It's all part of the plan. Maybe I just need to pivot or shift along the way. What's another global belief? And to clarify what global belief means, I think beliefs are driving our decisions so much. Like, if you believe you can achieve something, you're going to keep trying. If you don't believe you can, you're going to quit or stop. So in terms of your belief in yourself and in the world, what's one global belief that you would encourage our listeners to adopt that has created some amazing fulfillment in your life?
Well, I'm going to speak on behalf of women because I think you've got a lot of female women,
Yes,
female listeners. I know you do because we did all the ideal client.
Thank you for
Thank
that.
you for that, Summer. By the way, if everyone on this podcast, just real quick, shout out to Summer Scolaro.
Yes.
She is the reason why we started understanding who we're serving and why. So thank you, Summer, for that.
We
And I'm sure
appreciate
the
you.
listeners appreciate you as well.
Well, I put myself in your shoes, and sometimes I'm better at putting myself in other people's shoes than seeing things clearly in my own shoes. But when I look at you guys, and I truly was trying to live and see life through your lens, I was just thinking, what kind of people would we attract if we were running this kind of podcast? And I knew it would be females. I knew it because I listened to your podcast, and I was just thinking, yes, I know that you attract males too, but I just knew that a lot of the points that you talk about are really serving a female audience. And so we were able to go through the exercise in my branding program about finding your ideal client and understanding them. And I think that was really valuable. So as far as speaking to those females right now that are listening,
Yes.
I would say that, and maybe I think this is getting a little better. I really do. I think our culture is shifting, but even just growing up for me, there was a lot of competition attitude with other women. There was a lot of that competitive nature of oh, well, she's doing this maybe better than I am, or she's prettier than I am, or she's this or that, and she's my competitor, and I need to be better than her. I totally disagree. I really think that other women are not your competition. I think that it's all about community over competition, and that you need to join hands with that woman. And especially if you feel jealousy when you look at somebody, perhaps that's because it's sparking something in you that you haven't unlocked yet. And that is something you might feel called to. So, I mean, just an example, looking back, I used to follow this girl named Megan Telpner, and she just was the best chef. And I thought, wow, I kind of got jealous of her and what she created. And then I was like, wait, why am I jealous? Why don't I do that? Clearly I'm interested.
Right.
So I reached out to Megan, and she kind of helped me along the way, because that's what you should do. You should join hands. You shouldn't feel like against another woman who is also high achieving and has big goals and dreams. Instead, lock arms and do it together, and don't go it alone, and just know that you should be standing together to get further. When you try and kind of operate from a place of, okay, first of all, I can do it by myself and I need to get better than her, you're going to be so much slower and so much less fulfilled at getting there. So you might as well just build some sort of team or tribe, and then just start being a woman who supports other women, and know that that's going to take you further, and that women who have each other's backs, that is kind of the perfect environment for success. Because what do you do when you get that New York Times bestseller and you don't have anybody to celebrate with because you were all alone the whole time?
Right.
That sucks. So I just think that community over competition and women supporting women are such a big piece of my heart, and such a big piece of She Loves Holy, that is going to have to be my answer.
What a great answer.
Right?
That was even better than I could have expected. Thank
So
you for that.
let's jump on the other side of that, right? So I think that insecurity makes people live from, it doesn't make people, but it affects people in the way that they live from a scarce place. And I think when you're living from a scarce place, it's very hard for you to be happy for other people, right? Because you're afraid I could never get there. Oh, screw you for getting there. What are some of your tips and your experiences for gaining confidence for yourself gaining confidence and security for you, but also people around you? Like, what are some tips that you would have for the listeners?
Well, if she's doing something that you admire and are almost jealous of or think, God, well, if you see that, know that it's possible for you too. She did it, so can you. Use it as inspiration. And also, I know sometimes we look up to people who are far too famous to answer their DMs or to text you back or whatever. But if it is somebody that might truly answer and get back to you, why don't you ask them, like, hey, can you tell me, like, how did you get to this place? I have people reach out to me even on Instagram, which I don't spend tons and tons of time on Instagram anymore, but it is so, I'm so happy to help. So it's like, why don't you just reach out to the person that you are admiring and kind of ask them, hey, what program did you take to learn this? How did you get educated in this field? And then just know that it is, I think that when you take what she does as inspiration instead of kind of feeling like insecure and thinking, well, I could never do that. Just know it's possible for you because someone else did it before you and she's created some sort of path for you to follow. And I know your path is going to look different because nobody's path is the exact same, but someone has been able to be that pioneer for you to show you that it's possible. And so being inspired is truly, I think, the way out of this negative and limiting mindset that, oh, well, geez, I'm not good enough or I'm never going to be able to accomplish anything like that. Like, first ask for help and then use it as inspiration. Get a little fire under your booty. Like, do something about it. Don't just sit there.
Get a little fire under your booty.
Under your booty.
Perfect. I like that too. So
Yeah.
being inspired is like thinking about what could be versus what's not. If there's
Yes.
something focusing on what's not, then you're in scarcity. If you're focusing on what could
Yeah.
be, you're in inspiration. And I think gratitude is also a huge piece of staying fulfilled along the way, and that's something that I'm working on consistently. So there's something else that I wanted to ask you, Summer, and you mentioned locking arms, hand in hand, something along the lines of like creating a tribe. Obviously, we have the podcast Mastermind. We talk every other week. We do wins, losses, bottlenecks, free focus. We ask tough questions like, what would we do differently? What are we doing well? You and Kim seem like such an awesome dream team. And for the women listeners out there who maybe feel a little bit more alone in their journey, what I know that you and Kim talk regularly, more regularly than our podcast Mastermind, and I can see that trickling into our calls, which is awesome. What has Kim taught you, and what has being on a team with Kim really brought to your life?
Kim is the queen of ownership. So that's the number one lesson. She teaches me to take ownership of everything in my life. And I will call her and I will vent to her and I will send her voice messages that are 7 minutes long and I will be in a victim mentality. And she just reframes just immediately. And she does it to you guys on the calls too. And it's so funny. But, you know, I really think that the biggest purpose for why Kim was put in my life is to show me the way of what a true leader looks like and how to start cultivating that and shifting the mindset that you need to shift to become that leader. Kim is truly, like, her number one thing is leadership, and to be a great leader, you have to take ownership of everything in your life. So when I think about Kim, what she's taught me more than anything is the mindset of a true leader, and she's called me into that just without even necessarily trying, just as a friend too. Like, sometimes she does just allow me to speak and she listens, but she just, by the way that she thinks, that is what inspires me. Even when she's not giving me advice, by the way that she processes her own life, by the way that she never blames anybody or anything for the reason that something is happening in her life that she is not pleased with, except for herself. That is what's inspiring to me. And it kind of goes back to if she can do it, so can I. If she can be this amazing leader, and it's not just in her business, it's in her life, it's in her marriage, it's in her mother, it's in her life as a mother, like, then so can I. And so being able to to be on a team with Kim is really valuable because she's no BS. She doesn't allow that at all.
The challenger.
Yeah, yeah.
She's an 8 on the Enneagram, which is the challenger, and so she knows, like, sometimes we don't want to hear it, but she still goes there.
She brings the heat.
Yeah, for
She
sure.
brings the heat. She brings the heat. And you know what's so funny is my husband is an 8 on the Enneagram as well. And another person that I work with very, very closely is also, she's not an 8, but she's really, really high on an 8. And I get along freaking amazingly with 8s. Like, I love being challenged. I have no problem with it at all. And my husband challenges me in very different ways, but Kim is all about the personal growth and like stepping into your power, that kind of stuff. But I think that knowing your personality type is so valuable in your friendships too. So I just had to throw that out there.
Love that. All right. So speaking of personal development, so we have like 10 minutes left. We're going to ask our final 2 questions so you can plug away everything that you have going on. I'm going to switch my question up a little bit. So Alan and I recently were part of an event. And when we were talking to people about why they should come, we were reminiscing on how this podcast mastermind wouldn't be a thing if we didn't attend High Performance Academy.
Oh, yeah.
What have events done for you in terms of like building relationships? And what were the steps for you forming the podcast mastermind? Like, I think that's something that people want to know. Okay, fine, I go to an event, but how do I take a relationship and form and grow that from an event to a mastermind to a friendship to a team member? Like, how did that actually work?
Yeah, events for me have been that they have taught me that I'm not alone and that a lot of people are going through the same stuff as me. And I think that your events, and I can't wait to be able to attend one and be at one and just be around the community that you guys have cultivated and created. I'm
be a
just so
speaker.
excited.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can say it. You can say speaker.
Yeah.
That's going to happen.
Well, I would be very grateful and so excited. But yeah, events, I mean, yeah, that's how we are here. That's why you and I and Kim and Spike, and we are all connected because of that event. And so now in my life today, I actually plan events and I create that community for other people within the studios that I'm running. And so it's very, very, very inspiring to be able to create something as simple as a Pilates date night. Hey, bring your loved one and come share your world of Pilates with them. And then suddenly you see husbands of these women who have been dedicated members starting to become friends. And then they go out to dinner and then you get to hear about it. And then suddenly there's new besties. Like, I mean, how can you get that sort of intimate connection if it's not, and I know, sometimes it is hard where you live. And I know that that's why the online community is a thing. But if possible, that human in-person connection, it trumps all. I really believe that. And so it's very inspiring to create these kind of workshops and events. We've been doing 2 a month, which is a lot. So hopefully we can just do 1 a month. But,
we feel you on that summer for sure.
We've been doing 2 a month and we have like 24 people per workshop. And sometimes we have to create 2 workshops back to back. So it's like 48 people coming in and just like a span of 2 hours and just seeing the connection because of the environment we have created at the studios. They already have something in common. Right. They love Pilates, right. And they are trying to work on their mind-body connection. They're trying to get more flexible. They're trying to tone up. Like, they have something in common just if they are there in that room. Just like the people who come to your event, they have something in common simply because you've attracted a certain type of audience. And so I say, please, Kim did it, and Kim had the balls on this one. I give her the credit. But please just ask them, like, hey, will you be my friend? Because that's what Kim did to me. She looked at me And she said during Brendan's, he was talking about friendship, so I know it was relevant, but you can be even more ballsy and it might not be relevant. And you can still say it. But she literally looked at me and she said, will you be my growth friend? And I felt like I was getting proposed to for a second time. And I was just like, wow, yes, I will. And yes, a million times, yes. And so from there, like, we didn't know what that looked like, but we figured it out. We talked about, hey, what's realistic in our schedules? How many times a week can we talk? Now it's changed because we're both extremely busy. Like it used to be, we did a voice message every single day, and it would be a little bit stressful because I felt like, and she felt like, we needed to get back to each other with like that same 6-minute voice message. And then we were like, okay, this isn't sustainable. Maybe we should just do a call a week and then voice messages whenever we can. And that's kind of where we are now. So yeah, ask, be brave, and just know that if you feel a call or a pull towards somebody, might as well explore it and might as well ask and might as well figure it out once you make that connection. Just make it. Do that initial contact, and I promise it'll be worth it.
Kim has helped, and so have you, helped Kevin and I grow so much over the last couple years, and I'm so grateful Kim came up to you and said, will you be my growth friend? We've been to Kim's house. Spike made us dinner. It's amazing what can happen from one moment in time that we weren't even present for.
I met Summer.
Right.
I don't know if you know this.
Well, you weren't there when Kim asked her.
I did meet Summer, believe it or not.
That's true.
But
Luckily,
Kevin and I got
but I had
group
nothing to do with that.
Questions.
Well, Summer, this is that is a thing to you. Like, I remember looking at you and saying, like, I need to be in a group with her. And it's part of it is because you were beautiful, and I like that. But it was your energy. I could see that you had a warm energy. I don't know what that means or how to describe it, but you had an energy around you that was like warm and safe. And I was like, I want to be around that. I want to see what she's about. And that's all the credit to you. Like, that has nothing to do with me. It's because of who you are as a person.
So interesting.
Well, thank you. I actually noticed when I walked in, I noticed Alan. I made eye contact with you, Alan. I don't know if you remember. And then Kevin was sitting on the front row. I was maybe on like the third or fourth, and Kevin was the Energizer Bunny talking to everybody. And I thought Kevin worked for the event. I just was curious why you didn't have a name tag or like something that I could figure out who you were. But I was positive that you worked for Brendan because you were that intentional with all of the connections you were making. And I noticed that you kept changing seats, and like every day you were in a different place. And that meant that you were I know you did that on purpose. You were trying to talk to a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, it was.
And you made so many connections.
I did. That was the first time I ever felt like I belonged. I remember telling Alan that. Like, I finally feel like I met my people. You know?
Exactly.
I don't want to
now you're
no, you're good.
Well, but now you're creating that for people because you guys are you guys are starting to really shift into events, which is amazing.
One of my clients had that exact
Very
same
proud.
feeling. She mentioned how that was the exact same feeling at our last event.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on the time here, and the last question I want to ask is super simple. So what do you think the world, if you could pick one, so look at the last, when did your growth journey start? 6-7 years ago or so? How long ago was the nail, the scraping the floor moment when you said enough is enough?
Oh gosh, I think that might have been about 4-ish years ago, something like that.
You and I started very similar times. Okay, so there's probably something that you've done every single day since then. What is one thing that you've done every day in personal development that has made the biggest difference?
Okay, I like this. I'm just going to say the first thing that came to my mind, which is move. And I mean like exercise. I mean
move out of your town
every day.
Exercise, exactly.
Move. No, it's because that is what clears my mind more than anything. And I told you guys I had a real bad relationship with the gym before. And so that doesn't mean that I needed to go to the gym and run on the treadmill until I throw up. It actually just means that I can stretch, or I can be on my floor sometimes and just maybe, do a little downward dog action. And and it makes my body feel a little bit more alive. And then suddenly my mind starts to, like it's all connected. And then so I just start to think a little bit more clearly. And so I think that you need to create space, that again does not mean that you need to go get a gym membership. Maybe it does for some people, but you can do something where you go on a walk and just go look at a tree. Like, notice how it feels when you actually see the outside world and you're not just stuck in the indoors at your computer or phone. Like, move, get out of the same place. And I truly believe that you're going to have ideas and inspiration and light bulb moments and breakthroughs that you just wouldn't have if you didn't put yourself in a new environment or just moved a little bit more. So I would just say even a few minutes a day. I've always been consistent with that. And now it is Pilates, and I do bar, and I've been trying to take up like pole dancing and cycle and all those fun things, because I like to explore the ways that my body has fun moving, because if I'm not having fun, I won't stick with it. Pilates is always different every single class. So that's why I know I'm going to stick with it. But yeah, find something that makes you feel good and just move a little bit every day. And I think that goes a massive way.
So say hypothetically the listeners wanted to move on to finding out where they can learn more about you. Where would they look, and what can you help them with?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Plug away.
Good. I like that transition. Well, okay. So I do have a podcast, and
do you?
yeah,
Yes.
I do. And my last episode was April 12th, 2019. So I wanted to just share that I do have plans on around April 12th, 2020 to release season 2. So I really just have what I have now decided is season 1. And now I'm going to release season 2 around that same mark. So that's going to be a year in between the podcast, which I think is actually going to be a good thing, because I was going through a lot in that last year. And I felt like I didn't actually have much to say because I was growing through all the things. And I have a lot to say now. So I felt so much shame around like stopping the podcast for such a long period of time. But now I'm like, thank God I did, because I really feel like I'm going to have some value to provide. So just know that in the spring, I plan on doing seasonal podcasts, which means that I know myself and I cannot commit to every week, but I can commit to seasons. And that doesn't mean that there's going to be a year in between every season. It just means that it's going to be a little bit less frequent. And that's my favorite way to serve, is just to talk through something. And I like to write too, but I feel like it takes a little bit more energy. So if you do want to just hang out, I do hang out on Instagram, which is just at Summer Scolaro. And my podcast, you can also just search my name. It's Summer Scolaro, but it's called The She Lives Holy Show. My website is shelivesholy.com. And let's see, those are the 3 places I would say, but She Lives Holy is spelled she, S-H-E, lives, L-I-V-E-S, and then holy is W-H-O-L-L-Y. And it's just all about living a healthy, happy, inspired life. And we talk about relationships, and it's not just wellness. So I think relationships and wellness are definitely connected. But as far as the podcast goes and Instagram goes, those are kind of the places that I would like to build community from. And that's the online world. That's kind of where I hang out. But I will say I'm not there like that much right now. So I will answer a DM. It just might be like 4 months later. So just keep that in mind. And I am not currently offering my branding program, but if you put yourself on the wait list, you can do that through the link in my website or on my bio from Instagram. Then I will let you guys know when I am available to relaunch that sucker, and I'm real excited about it. But I want to make sure that I'm giving myself this time and space to be able to serve whoever does sign up.
Understandable. And we can definitely attest, like, you have taught us so much about branding and so much about knowing who you're trying to serve that, like, I couldn't explain in an episode. But we are so grateful and so appreciative of that. And obviously, Alan and I will not sign off on anything that we don't believe in. I 100% believe in anything that you put out, any product that you put out, because I know you're not only doing it for the right reason, but you have the right resources and mindset behind it.
Yeah, I think that career is such a big part of what makes up our happiness, and I love to help women create a career that fulfills them and feels good for them. And so that's really how I view branding. It's not necessarily about getting the Instagram followers, though I can help with that, but it is it is so much more about creating a community around what it is that you're passionate about and what it is that fuels your fire.
Thank you so much, Summer, for coming on the show. For all of the listeners, you will be meeting Summer if you attend one of our future events.
When you attend
one of our future events, she will be speaking on one of our stages for sure. Summer, thank you so much for doing this today. We appreciate your time so very much.
Thank you, guys. It's so fun to talk to you. I really appreciate you having me on again. That was awesome.
We'll do it another 220 episodes when we hit 500.
Okay,
we'll
perfect. That's a good plan. Hopefully every time I can just get a little bit more knowledgeable and feel like I can keep growing, and
Summer,
we'll do it together.
There was no dogs in the background on this one. Are you not at home?
Where's Romeo?
Yeah.
Wow, I can't believe you noticed. Well, actually I can, but I decided that I needed to go to an office space. So I'm in a WeWork zone right now because I could not risk my dogs being psychopaths.
Well, we respect that.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll hear them
I
soon.
just wanted to make sure that I was in a professional setting where I can be able to focus. And there's so many times that we were on the mastermind and still are where I can't even hear anything. So anyway, I thought I needed to give you that respect.
One of my favorite quotes. Oh my God, I think Romeo's trying to eat the neighbor. All right.
Yes.
See you later, Summer.
She lives wholly with dogs. Yeah.
Yes.
We will let you get back to your busy schedule and productive schedule. Summer, we appreciate you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the one and only Summer Scolaro.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.